Let's take a look at what took place on the local markets today. Owen Nkomo, Executive Partner at Inkunzi Invest, and Sorrour, Portfolio Manager at Sasfin Securities, are my market watchers today. Welcome to you both on the last trading day of this month, the last trading day of this quarter. So Owen, I'll start off with you. I mean, how's this year been for you in the markets? Because I was speaking to someone earlier, they said it's been a great year. They've been able to pretty much make money in most places and clients are happy. Have you had the same type of year?
It's definitely been a good year to start. I mean, you see what's happening in the US, nice recovery, and most of our stocks also have had a decent rally until the past 2 odd weeks, when we started seeing the resources names come off. It's also been a very tricky one with Cyprus at the end of the quarter coming to mess things up a little bit. But yeah, on the whole, the market has been decent.
I mean, has it really gone anywhere, Nicholas?
Well, it depends on where you've been in the market. I think if you look
and when you came in.
Yeah, look, if you started the year on the JSE Top 40, it was the index you bought, you're not really up by much, you're up by about 500 points. I mean, we had a spectacular start to the year after the fiscal cliff story was a thing of the past. But since then, the markets have gone sideways. But if you've been an American investor, or if you've been a South African investing overseas in America, you've done incredibly well. You've had a weaker rand, which has benefited you, and you've also had stronger equity prices there. If you've been a Greek investor, you've done terribly in the month of March. Your index is down 8.5%. So it's very difficult to say it's been a great year or a bad year. It's just been a tricky year. You had to be in the right places. It hasn't been across the board one straight line up at all. So if you were in resources for this quarter, it hasn't been good for you. If you've been in, say, the Discovery share price, it's done very well for you. So yeah, it's very important to take that into account.
Certainly, US investors are cheering the fact the S&P 500 is now surpassing its records. So that of course is good news. But let's talk about the telco sector here in South Africa. The likes of MTN and Vodacom have had a tough month, and it seems there've been a lot of forces weighing against them. Do you think that there's specific issues you need to look at with these companies, or is it more generally people saying perhaps they're priced a little bit too high right now?
Look, there's a lot of different issues in the space. Telecom is obviously well known for perennial disappointing news, with the exception of today. But we've been here before, where we get new management at Telecom. Obviously today they announced that Mr.
I'll get the name for you. Hold on.
Yes. Right?
Yes,
there we go.
Sipho Masego, who's formerly MD of Vodacom, is going to take over as CEO.
So he sees kind of confidence in the new turnaround strategy of the chairman, Jabu Mabuza.
Exactly, with Mr. Mabuza as chairman of the company, and he's said he's not going to take any unwarranted pressure from the government. He wants to operate independently. Obviously, Telcom still got a few cases that they are being charged for in the courts. They have to defend that. CapEx, what's happened with Hater, 6 billion rands later, and the company is still not doing what they anticipated it to do. They're even thinking of rebranding it. But today, the stock recovered nicely. Vodacom has had its challenges. It went all the way to 128, but it's back now at 110. MTN, obviously, also under pressure at the moment, with obviously the big issue there being pricing in terms of what we are paying for calls. There's a lot of dynamics coming into the space, and the companies are having to juggle around with new products and try and see if they can still keep pushing market share.
It's almost, you get a sense that there's a price war playing out in South Africa. I mean, you're looking at Vodacom, they've launched this anytime per second, that undercutting MTN's one rate plan that recently was launched. So basically, they keep undercutting each other, these two of the bigger ones. And then you've got the rates of the likes of Celsi and Aita still at attractive levels when it comes to per second billing, but still not enough to attract customers. Are you concerned about how this is going to eat into dwindling voice revenues?
Absolutely. It's always been a concern of ours is this oligopoly between MTN and Vodacom, and the fight that they will obviously have with getting as many customers as possible. Voice is important, but it's not the most important profit driver of these businesses. It's getting the customer or the client in order for those individuals to spend money on data. That's where the real money is. So for example, with Vodacom, with their recent numbers out ending December of last year, you saw voice numbers come off tremendously, and the market took a huge reaction to that. That's one of the main reasons why the price came off from about 128. But if you looked at the numbers, it's really the data that is where the profit margin is. So, you know, you could argue that they're fighting for nitty-gritty, but it's really your top customers that you want to keep, the guys that are spending money on data at the end of the day. That's really going to be the most important thing for both businesses going forward.
Yeah, I mean, interesting that MTN then comes out and changed the billing for BlackBerry specifically. And BlackBerry is an important kind of market here still in South Africa, even though in the likes of the States, it's got a very low market share. Your thoughts on that? I mean, that change in that billing plan?
Definitely a big deal. I mean, you should have seen Twitter last night. Everyone on MTN was so unhappy with what the guys have done. I think they've actually finally instituted the rationalization of data usage on their side. Whereas you used to pay $60 a month for business information services, now you're going to have to be capped at 200 megabytes. And 200 megabytes is definitely nothing, because just as an example, as I was saying earlier, you know, if you send one ping to someone on BBM, you spend already 20 megabytes. And that's extremely expensive. So the guys are not very happy about what's been done there. So
heated conversations on Twitter. My solution, just go to iPhone. I'm a happy iPhone customer. Anyway, let's move on to Matters Mining. Kumba Iron Ore basically, you know, finally getting this whole
finally winning
thing.
This whole appeal.
Tell
us
That's
huge.
About
I mean, a lot of people might have just skipped over that, but I think it's big for the business, but it's bigger for South Africa as a whole, because it just shows that you know, we can still go through the legal system, and the legal system can still win. You know, there was a lot of underhanded dealings. You know, it's in the press, and if you have a look at it, between the DMR and this whole situation with Crown Trading, and actually underhandedly taking these rights away from a legitimate business, which is Kumba. So Kumba fought it all the way. There was a large concern that government would get involved further and actually overrule the whole system. So it's a great win, I think, for South Africa as a country,
and
for mining companies. Our constitution, mining rights are secure. So I think from even an international community perspective, I think there's a little bit of a sigh of relief that this is now, for the moment, being resolved, and in the favor of Kumba, but more in the favor of South Africa, I would say.
That being said, given Kumba's reliance on essentially one metal, did you like the stock? I mean, it's placed trading at around 492 as it stands, and pretty much flat today.
Now look, I mean, obviously that's a stock that depends on what happens to global growth. How does China, you know, if China is going to maintain the 7.5% growth rate and even surpass that, then the stock is in a good position. But like we've just been saying here, you know, it's a good thing that the justice system is still intact in the country. But unfortunately, you're not going to see this story in the headlines. You know, we're only going to put the negative stuff out there, whereas this is the kind of thing that could win us foreign investors back into the country.